live from New York and guilty on all counts, it's Ask an Engineer. Look, we've been living in the world where the news seeps in, so I have to have a joke to look back on.
All right, well.
This historic day. All right, live from New York is Ask an Engineer. What's going on?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask Engineer. It's me, ladyada. I'm the engineer. With me is Mr. Ladyada, also guilty on all counts, but also helping out with camera control and answering questions behind the scenes and keeping everything running. Also putting all the show together. Thank you so much, Mr. Ladyada. We got a jam-packed show. We got all sorts of good stuff. We got some new products. We got some videos. We've got guides. We've got demos. We've got tutorials. I got INPI and more. Why don't you kick it off by telling people what's on tonight's show?
On tonight's show, the code is expressive, 10% off the Adafruit store all the way up till 11:59 p.m. Or sometimes I don't turn off the code and folks can get discounts later. But you never know. You never know. So use it or lose it. Expressive. 10% off anything we have in stock in the store. Adafruit live series shows. We're going to talk about those, including show and tell, which we just did. Time travel, look around in the world of makers, hackers, artists, and engineers. What's going on? We have chip shortage and second time appearance. Texas Instruments will be talking about what we can't get, and we'll just basically beg for it. From the mailbag, we'll read your letters to us. We got some advanced manufacturing and more made in New York City here from the factory. Some 3D printing projects. We got Ion MPI, brought to you by DigiKey. This week is Murata. And we've got some new products. We answer your questions, but we do that on Discord. You have to be clear about this. If you're going to ask questions, the only way we can answer them is if you post them
there
in Discord, adafruit.it/Discord. Join all 34,000 of us. All that and more on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
Yeah.
Okay, well, first up, you've probably noticed on our website and all our social media places, pretty much anywhere there's Adafruit, including our teams, it is Pride Month. It's Pride all year long, but this is a particular month when we can celebrate the contributions of our LGBTQIA+ community, our team members, employees, friends, family, and we'll continue to work to make this one of the best inclusive, welcoming, and supportive places this year more than ever, where we're going to stand together and not only be resilient because there's a lot of stuff going on, but we're going to celebrate together. So thank you, everyone, for building a cool place with us where everyone can make something, everyone can share something, we can all share things, and we can all get along. So that is what's going on all of this month and more. We do have some bills we're going to pay. So to start that off, just a reminder, expressive, that's good. Ladyada, we give away free things in the cart. What do we give away at the different price tiers?
That's right. We've got $99 or more. We've got the little freebie we've had for quite a bit. It's the half-size Perma Proto, a great little gift, or keep it in your desk drawer for when you are going to make your project permanent by moving it from a breadboard to a Perma Proto. And at $149 or more, we've updated the freebie. It was STEMMA QT boards for a bit. Want to take a little bit of break? It's going to be a KB2040. It's Pro Micro shaped. It's got USB-C, an RP2040, tons of memory, and a STEMMA QT port. So it's a great little board. It doesn't have to be for keyboards. It's designed originally for that, but it's just cool and pink, and it's a powerful microcontroller that you can run Arduino or CircuitPython on. And $199 or more you get free UPS ground shipping in the continental United States.
And a reminder, if you want to buy a Raspberry Pi or Teensy, we have a limit of one per customer. Eventually we might change that. Eventually we might change when you can buy them again. And what we're doing is we're constantly updating the FAQ. We're constantly updating our terms of service. We're trying to work with any individuals who have questions. But we also have to be very clear, and we also have to repeat this because there's lots of people, and then some folks are trying to get around the rules. So if you're wondering, go to the terms of service page on adafruit.com. You can scroll to the bottom. And just to be super duper clear, we understand there's some people who say, but I only have one project which requires 5 Raspberry Pis. I have a cluster. Well, you know what? It might not be time to do that project because, well, it sounds fair to you for you to get 5 for your project. That means 4 other people can't get a Raspberry Pi because you already have one. And please stop trying to get around all the ways to buy a Raspberry Pi on Adafruit to get those other 4 for your cluster. Maybe just postpone that project for a little bit later so that kid can get that Raspberry Pi or that educator or someone else. So we have both of those little FAQs up. We have which boards are limit 1 per customer. There isn't a reset period yet, but it's not forever either. We just don't have enough, and we don't know when we'll be able to say, okay, you bought one, you can buy one again. Don't know, so we'd rather not give you a timeline and deadline and a calendar item because it'll probably change.
That's right,
So
and we still are selling it very, very quickly. So
Yeah.
the demand is still there. People, the majority of people are ordering Raspberry Pis right now that are
They do.
getting their first one.
They do.
They've never had a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who are really just trying to get a single Raspberry Pi. I know that there's folks out there who are like, but I got a Raspberry Pi 2G and now there's an 8G and I want both. I'm sorry. You can either take the local train or the express train. You're going to decide which one you
And-
want to take. If you want to take the first train that shows up at the station, go for it. But don't get pissed off if the express train comes a little bit later.
Yeah. And,
It's a New York thing.
And, a request, and I doubt the people who are doing this are watching, but if you are, please don't sell your pre-order on eBay of like, I'm going to get a Raspberry Pi from Adafruit, so you can buy it now for $120, and then when I get it, I'll send it to you. Please don't do that because one, we're
Well,
gonna,
don't resell them anyways.
don't
sell the new ones.
Don't sell something you don't have, and then don't buy them with the intention or the goal to sell it for like $100 more. There's other things that you can do that with sneakers and other things where that's okay. Please don't do this. Kids are having a hard enough time right now in the world, and them not having Raspberry Pis because someone's buying them and eBaying them shouldn't be on the long list of things that makes it hard to be a young person right now. Anyways,
And people might
that's
be
our request.
wondering, oh, but I'm special. And can I email you and tell you about how I need an exception? The answer is no. There's currently no exceptions.
Well, you can email, but
You can always email.
You can email, but we probably
But no.
will be polite and say we can't make an exception for that.
Yes.
Okay. So we do some live shows
That's right.
every single week. So this week we hosted the show and tell, and we had our collection of Adafruit folks, and we also had some folks from the community. Specifically, John stopped by and did this really neat project. He had seen this thing he got for his kids where you tie the little strings around nails and you can make a little pattern on a grid. But he wanted to put EL wire on it. But EL wire, you can't bend it around really small radii. So what he did was he got this big pegboard and weaved the EL wire through it. And you can also have different colors, blinking, and all sorts of neat things. Kids loved it. He loved it. We loved it. So check it out. I also asked if we could get a photo or like something for a blog post, and we'll show that off. Really clever idea. And if you have EL wire laying around, here's something that you could do with it. Friends, family, and youngins. We did not do Desk of Lady Ada on Sunday because it was holiday weekend. However, we still did The Great Search, and that's getting published as we speak. But y'all who are tuning in, you get a preview. Lady Ada, what was The Great Search this week?
I'm glad you asked. The Great Search, you can see I'm wearing the same shirt. The Great Search is a continuation of last week's Great Search, which is for the AP 2112. That is a regulator that we use for almost all of our breakout boards and development boards. And last week what we looked at was, are there other regulators that we can use that are the same package but maybe less current capability, and use those instead for the breakout boards, like the non-feathers that aren't as that are not as picky about how much current they need. And then this week, what I wanted to do is like, okay, now that I've taken care of those breakout boards, I've got a couple alternatives for them of low dropout, pin compatible, ceramic capacitor stable regulators that are available and I could purchase. This week I wanted to future-proof my cutie pie and feather designs going forward because I want to make sure that we can source a regulator maybe in a different package that I can use. So if I design a board, it's easy to add traces to a board before you order it, but it's really hard to add traces to a board after you order it. So, can I add a flip-flop, an alternative package for a regulator onto a feather? And I found one that it's really tiny. It's a 5 DFN, but it does fit on a board within the pads for the SOC 23.5. And basically means that, if I can't get one, I might be able to get the other. So I might be able to swap between the two pieces. And I got a couple of the chips as well to show off. I mean, they are very tiny, but the sample I got can do 700 milliamps. And it actually might allow me to make even smaller boards because the regulator is just, it's 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. So check it out if you're interested in what part I picked.
Okay. And then we do JP's product pick of the week every single week. JP has his show tomorrow, but you can check out this week's product pick right now.
It is the Joy Featherwing. This is a PSP style analog joystick, so it's a potentiometer that goes from 0 to 1023, 0 to 1023 for X and Y axis. And it also has the 4 A, B, X, Y buttons. It also has a select button at the top. This is the original seesaw board, a little seesaw chip that is taking care of finding out what's going on the board, in this case, collecting the analog inputs and those 5 button presses, and then sending all that info over I2C. What I decided to do is make a little game console using the Featherwing, and you can see there, it's just connected over I2C. Thumbstick there to rotate the little ship, and then I can use the B button to thrust, get away, and then I can do the old Death Blossom and fire off, I think, a maximum of 5 shots. It is the Joy Featherwing.
Tune into JP's show on Thursdays.
Is there more from JP?
There is. Don't forget, it's the workshop, and you can watch Parsec. I'm going to skip Parsec highlight this week because we got a bunch of stuff on the show, but you can watch the latest one. We had just posted it up online. And then on Fridays, we do Deep Dive with Tim. We might have special guest Scott soon. Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. You learn all the innards of CircuitPython. Time travel. Let's look around in the world of makers, hackers, artists, engineers, and more. And of course, our recurring news. It's chip shortage. You'll hear the song soon. AdaBox will be shipping. It's not shipping now. It didn't ship in winter. It's now spring. We're hoping to ship it in spring. Speaking of, are you ready?
Yes.
It's everyone's favorite segment.
Oh, yay.
All right, Lady Ada. So this week's chip shortage.
Okay.
What is it?
Okay, so this chip shortage is actually kind of an interesting one because,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like I'm trying to save the better ones, as we're getting to the chip shortage videos. So the previous videos, I talked about like single microcontrollers or single chips, like, oh, I can't get this motor driver, and so I can't make this motor driver board. But the chip shortage that has been like kind of a little bit of my mini crisis this week has been the voltage regulator that we use on like 80% of our dev boards and breakout boards, the AP2112K shown here, is hard to get. And I've actually seen a couple of people on social media also mention, a lot of people use it because we put it in our schematics. And I don't know if you're aware, but our schematics are very helpful for people because they tell people how to spec the parts for our boards. And so they see that we use the AP2112K and they're like, that's a great regulator. I'm going to use it. So before you know it, everyone's using it. And that's really cool, except if you can't get it, suddenly like all of the Adafruit dev boards can't go in stock. And I always like to say, what Phil has taught me, which is never let a crisis go to waste, except for now during a chip shortage. We now let 1 out of 5 crises go to waste, but we try to...
Yeah. So if there's an Adafruit business book of phrases, we used to say, oh, don't let a crisis go to waste. And, I heard it somewhere. However, over the last few years, there's just been a crisis after crisis after crisis. So now we're saying it's not a collection of crises like a yogurt card where, you get 5 crises, you get 1 free or something.
Yeah.
So we're letting every 4th or 5th, maybe there's some crises that can go to waste. But generally speaking, when something comes up like this, look at it as an opportunity. And that's what we're trying to do with this series. So what are you doing about this?
Okay, so this is the Diodes Inc. AP2112K 3.3 volt regulator, which again, anyone who has looked at Adafruit designs has seen that we love using. So we do have some on order, and we're gonna ask the CEO, whose name is Mr. Diodes, if they can maybe send us some a little early because we do have some on order, but we're gonna run out. And we're doing, if you've seen a bunch of our great searches, we showed a couple other Diodes Inc. parts that we might be able to use as alternatives, but we really do love this regulator, and we use it in all of our feathers. So please, oh, maybe you want to go to I think the next one.
Yeah, we have.
This is
here.
it.
Yeah.
From Diodes Inc. They have a cool. They sell more than diodes, by the way, but they do have a lot of diodes. And we're going to say, please, 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 please. We have a couple 100,000 on order through DigiKey. Could you please allocate us? Like 50,000 pieces, 30,000 pieces.
Name some products that we won't be able to make and get to all the folks in the world who want them. Like just
classic, any feather, any cutie pie board. All of our OLED displays and our sensors, our Wi-Fi boards, our Bluetooth, our Nordic boards. It's like you love the Espressif and Nordic and SAMD chips, and you love the STMs. Well, all of those use this regulator, and it's like, this is just, a lot of people don't realize how much work these regulators do. It's not that they're unloved, but they just silently do the heavy work of keeping that voltage, 3.3 volts, rock solid, no matter what you're doing. Our regulators don't usually pop. They're really solid. Yeah. They're high quality. They're protected. They've got temperature control. They've got great enable pins. We love them. Please, Mr. and Mrs. Diodes, could you spare a couple reels
please
of the APT112K?
Please, we are just mere street urchins. Please, Diodes.
Please, Diodes.
Okay, well, we'll try. We're gonna send this over to them.
All right.
Yeah, we're using this for good stuff. For good reasons.
All of it is going to be used by young children learning. Very wholesome. They've got like little pink cheeks. Think they've got slightly messy hair.
Think about what we're tasking the next generation to do. So many things they have to fix. So many things they have to build. So many things they have to solve. They need diodes. They need these.
And they need regulators.
They need regulators.
Yeah.
They need parts.
Yeah.
They need
and this
hope.
is everybody's favorite regulator, by the way. So I mean it's a blessing and it's a slight curse if they're not available.
Okay. Well, that's this week's chip shortage. Mailbag.
Hey, Packet.
And of course, I forgot to put the audio, the song.
Oh,
in
the
this.
song? You want me to sing it?
It goes letters.
Letters.
Yeah,
we get letters.
We get
your emails, your
yeah.
faxes, your tweets.
Yeah.
We get your letters.
Yeah.
We get your letters. See, I didn't sing the song. We
Yeah,
get
we
your
don't
letters
need an
come in
audio
here
track.
in Mailbag.
So this one came in. I just wanted to say that one of the bright spots in the last 2 years have been Adafruit. Your tools and gadgets have been a great source of joy lately. I've had a ton of fun coming up with projects for the NeoTrinky, passphrase generator, SF quote provider, NIMgate, deck of cards, simulator, Morse code blinker, to name a few. And it doesn't need to be said, but he's going to say anyways. CircuitPython rocks. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? That's really cool because that's kind of what the NeoTrinky is about. It's like, the Trinky was designed to be like, how inexpensive and small could we make a CircuitPython board that people could still do some kind of fun projects with? Yeah. It's got NeoPixels. It's got touch. It's funny. You inspired me to build that project because you kept sending me those little, USB flashlight things. And I was like, Phil has this thing where he'll just send me stuff until I'm like, I can't take it anymore. I've got to design something better.
If Lamore sees something that's not well designed, that's too expensive, that's not open source, like all these things, I'll just be like, hey, you might want to look at this. And then eventually she's like, I can make something better, lower cost, open source, and get it to more people and make something that people can learn from. So it is one of my strategies. Okay, speaking of Python, it's Python on hardware. News time. Our newsletter is rapidly approaching like 10,000 people. So there is a bunch going on. Every single week it's jam-packed. This is one of the bigger ones. So I'm going to go through a couple specific
Chunkin'.
things. But just to give you a taste of what's here, from e-ink displays to birds that detect...
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
The canary in a coal
yeah,
mine.
that detect if the air is okay or not. Lots of macro pads, lots of different projects, all Python powered. It is kind of never ending. One interesting thing that I thought, Elector is now doing Python on hardware. So it looks like it's everywhere. But this week, the thing I wanted to talk about first was a follow-up. So this is just from the last few weeks we've been talking about this. So 3 weeks ago, I think we started
Not the week, but the week before. So it's been 2 weeks.
the fundraising for MicroPython. So MicroPython doesn't have hardware to sell right now. We normally buy hardware
Wait,
from them.
why not?
Chip shortage.
Chip shortage. It's
Yeah.
a chip shortage. Okay.
And we said, every year we donate, every year we celebrate how many years MicroPython's been around. And, we have a version that's built on top of MicroPython, CircuitPython. And we said, well, let's do what we always do, donate money, but maybe we can get more people to join, because there was only 84 and it really hadn't moved in a year. And the sponsorship, the way to donate is on GitHub, and they have a sponsorship thing there. So it got up to 121. So 84 to 121. They hit their first goal of 5,000 a month after we helped get the word out, and all of you helped out and joined. And so what happens, though, is you can't see the goal anymore because they reached the goal. So they now upped it up to $10,000 a month. They'd be able to do a lot more with MicroPython. So I just wanted to say thank you, everyone who did a one-time donation or a monthly sponsorship, even if it's like $1 a month. For the number of people that use MicroPython, they would be able to, they'd be a multi-million-dollar company. So it's something to think about. If you use it, consider doing it. You can do it one time. You can do something. Normally, we'd also say buy hardware from Adafruit that MicroPython makes, but there isn't any. So this is one of the things we're trying to help out with. So for the folks who did, thank you. And for the folks who are on the fence, please do it. And then in CircuitPython news, Anne was on the teardown sessions with Helen over at Crowd Supply. So you can check out
Ladies,
Anne's interview and
talking
more.
Python. How could you not run to
Yeah.
go listen to this awesome podcast?
And then Make just did a review of the Metro ESP32S2, includes CircuitPython. And then big super thanks when folks use CircuitPython and they're over on GitHub, they can hit like, they can hit star.
yeah.
They can. It does nothing monetarily. It just says, "Wow, cool,
Wow,
thanks."
cool,
So
thanks.
Adafruit, CircuitPython, you can see our little stars, and we're still going up that way. So we're up to 3,000. If you use it, please consider clicking it. It does let us know that you like it and care. We deliver this newsletter every single week. You can go over to adafruitdaily.com, and it's a separate site. We don't spam, we don't harvest, we don't have pop-ups on any of our websites. We don't have all sorts of weird things that make you feel gross when you go to a website. We don't do that. So it's not easy to sign up for things accidentally with us. But if you want this newsletter, go to adafruitdaily.com. And that's this week's Python on Hardware.
Thank you, Blinka.
Okay, we're an open source hardware company.
It's true.
It's true. Despite that one guy who's convinced we're not. So we have 2,681 guides, ladyada.
Ooh.
And we have, let's see, altogether, we have 6 new guides this week. What's on the big board this week?
Okay. First off, Melissa did a massive refresh on the Introducing Adafruit Feather Guide. I wrote this guide a couple years ago. I had all the feathers, but we've added more feathers. So Melissa has added all the feathers and categories that have come up since. Checked out all the feedback. If there's other feathers, we might add a page later to link to other people's feather designs, although we have the awesome feather GitHub repo where we link to so many other feathers and feather wings. But we wanted to, a lot of people are like, I don't know which to get, and which feathers have Wi-Fi and which ones have Bluetooth, whatever. So this guide goes through that. Kattni Carter updated Canny's VEML 770 ambient light and lux sensor guide with a new lux calculation thing. Carter is just like willing to sit down and just figure out how the lux calculation is supposed to work on the VEML 770. Got it up and running and committed it to Arduino. Wrote a page about how to use it. Check out that guide if you're looking for advanced VEML 770 usage tips. Next up, we've also got a new guide from Liz for the NAU 7802. We've got an Arduino library, and then from Cedar Grove, we've got a great CircuitPython library. Thank you, Cedar Grove, for writing that. Carter also updated the how to scan and detect I2C addresses, which is my go-to link tossing URL for people who have I2C issues, because there's so many boards that have multiple I2C ports, like the Due and the ESPs and the RP2040s. I send them this guide. Scanning I2C is a great way to just see, like, is my thing even being detected? So check out that guide. We updated it with our testbed library script, which handles all the weird cases of, like, sometimes there's multiple I2C ports, and sometimes they've named something different. And then Known Pedro did a project for the mini gift players. We'll show a video for that, 3D printing project. And then Trevor updated the PyLeap app guide. So the PyLeap is about to go through a big revision in UI and usability. And to prepare for that, we just kind of scrubbed the guide a little bit, had added screenshots. So if you use PyLeap or you want to use PyLeap, check out the App Store in a couple days. We'll do a release of the 1.2 or 1.5, whatever we're calling it, version real soon now. Just finishing up last bugs.
Okay. We have some factory footage, and we also have a special Memorial Day little video clip from outside our window.
Here we go. Okay, so this one's hard.
And outside our window, we have this. This is our view of the Disney building across the street, and they're putting in windows. But one nice thing was a little treat. This went up right before Memorial Day, so we got a nice treat of a big old American flag out front. Okay, let's do some 3D printing. We're gonna play these videos back to back. We've got the little gift player, and then we've got this super cool little 3D printed speed up that's of a Blink-a-Snake. Take it away.
Hey, what's up folks? In this project we're building a mini gift player using Arduino and CircuitPython. We designed and 3D printed these enclosures to look like a small retro TV and a portable gaming console that can play animated GIFs. Powered by the Feather RP2040, this dev board is packed with lots of great features and has the ability to be used in Arduino and Adafruit CircuitPython. This project uses CircuitPython's USB mass storage capability to emulate a flash drive so we can just drag and drop GIF images. We just had to convert a batch of GIFs and resize them to match the resolution of the TFT displays. In the Arduino sketch, we just need to configure the display to match the pins in our setup. To compile the code, we're using the RP2040 Arduino Core by Phil Hauer. The animated GIF decoder library is from BitBank Software. The code to build this project is on GitHub, so you can download and try it out. We're using a 1.9-inch and a 1.7-inch TFT display. Both of these displays feature SPI interfacing for quick wiring and are both IPS, so they look nice and crisp. You can get the parts to build this project, links are in the description. Pick your favorite PLA filament and 3D print the parts to build either the mini retro TV or the portable gaming console. Start by wiring up the display to the Feather RP2040 following the circuit diagram on the Adafruit Learning System. The 3D printed bracket fits in between the display and the dev board and gets secured together using machine screws. The slide switch is wired up to the Feather RP2040 so we can easily turn the display on and off. The LiPo battery is small enough to fit inside the 3D printed enclosures and can be recharged over USB. The slide switch is press fitted into the built-in holder with the actuator accessible on the other side. With the battery installed, the back cover snap fits over the enclosure, making it close shut. And that's it! We think these cute displays will go great with dioramas, Lego builds, or really any project with miniatures. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more projects from Adafruit.
And don't forget, every single Wednesday, you can learn how to make all this stuff and more. There's 3D Hangouts. Let's do some Eye on NPI next.
Yes.
Eye on NPI.
Eye on NPI, brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. This week's latest new product is from Murata. Ladyada, what is this week's Eye on NPI?
Okay, this week's Eye on NPI is this really cool all-in-one module called the 1SJ from Murata. And Murata's the packager. What I thought was really neat about this is this very, very tiny module that has everything you need to make a pretty advanced LoRaWAN powered projects. It's not a router, it's like the end node. But if you're making a product or a project where you want to basically add long range, multi-mile communications, and you don't want to have to spend money on SIM cards and cellular and NB-IoT, and maybe you're outdoors so you don't want to use Wi-Fi, LoRaWAN is a really good option. LoRaWAN is free. The licensing fees are paid when you purchase the modem, unlike Sigfox where you often pay per message, and NB-IoT where again you buy the modem and then you have a SIM card and you pay per message or per month. So LoRaWAN is ISM band. This is in particular, this model is a 900 megahertz-ish radio. It's really tiny. I thought actually I would show it on the overhead first, and then we can talk about what's in the module. So this is it, a really tiny little module. This is the eval board from Murata. And you can see how skinny this module is. I'm starting to see more RF modules like this, these little epoxied silver modules. It looks like it needs, a probably inductor for a little built-in buck converter, a couple external capacitors and passives, but really, no crystal or anything else. It goes straight into, an antenna port. You can attach any kind of antenna onto it. Okay, sorry, so let's go back. This module is made by Murata, and inside of it is a SX1262, and that's the Semtech LoRa module. This is the module that actually does the RF stuff. Semtech is the licensee for LoRa. If you want to use LoRa and LoRaWAN, you're pretty much going to be using Semtech chips. This is a recent chip that they've got driver code, and I'll show you in a moment. A lot of the code that we've used is, I think, for a slightly different chip. I think it's the SM1676. So this is, I think, a more modern one. And it's connected over SPI. You see there with SPI reset, busy, and antenna switch connected to a also built-in STM32L072 or 82. It's also got a crystal built in, so all you need to do is really provide power, and you've got everything you need. And then the bottom pads have all the breakouts for the, as you see on the right, USB, UART, I2C, SPI, ADC, GPIO, etc. Of course, you can buy the chip separately if you also check out the datasheet for the STM32L082. It's an STM32L0 series. That's a Cortex M0. I think it has like 192K of flash and like 32K of RAM. It's a powerful chip, but it's also ultra low power. You can really get this down into the couple microamperes of current. It also looks like there's a DC-DC converter, so that sometimes helps cut the power even more, which makes sense because a lot of times you're going to want to use these for sensor nodes where you may be, let's say you're making a agricultural sensing element. It's out in the field. It's measuring humidity, pH of soil, and temperature, and it's sending it back to a base station a couple miles away. You don't want to go around and have to change the battery constantly. Ideally, it runs off a little solar panel or a little battery, and it runs for years on its own. So you want to have an ultra low power microcontroller, and the new STM32L0s are great for that. They're designed specifically for low power applications. You get more details, of course, on the STM32 website. And then the other half is the SX1262. This is the radio, communicates over SPI. Anyone who's done LoRaWAN with Python or Arduino is familiar with the SX series of chips. These modules can also, this radio can also do like FSK. I think you probably can do ASK. You don't have to use LoRaWAN. You can do, simple modulation as well. But chances are, if you're getting this, you're paying the extra couple bucks because you want to have the LoRa licensing. And then Semtech has a separate data sheet just for this chip. Remember the Murata kind of took those two parts and kind of made a little lasagna out of them. Murata they'll help you get it going, but really what you're dealing with is a module that has combined these two things that Murata is just very good at doing the packaging for. And the packaging is nice and small, as I showed you. It's a very small, thin, pick-and-place, surface-mountable module. What I like about these is compared to a tin module, there's no ingress. I'm not saying dunk it underwater, but you could pot this, and not have to worry too much about moisture getting into the package. It's a full epoxied shape. And because it's low power, you don't have to worry about heat dissipation either. If you want to get started with the coding, the STM32 is a well-established chip. Semtech has drivers available. Officially it's on the embed distribution page, but if you look, it's actually on GitHub. So you go to GitHub, and this is a C driver, which you can then, probably fairly easily port to something like Arduino, or, they have example code for STM32 Cube and such. But, I'm always interested in can I do this with Arduino? And there is Arduino support. You could make this work with Arduino using, you know, online, like people, I remember when I was looking for this chip, there's, you know, STM32 Duino, and there's also a couple other community-based STM32L 0 series board support packages. Like here's one I found for Rust. So you want to make a LoRaWAN node that uses Rust, go for it, all available. Right now you can get the eval boards. That's what I showed off. It's, you know, a nice eval board. It's got everything you need. On the bottom left there is the JTAG SWD debug button, you know, micro USB connected to the USB of the STM32, and it's got Arduino-ish headers, and then antenna. I mean, the board is much bigger than it needs to be. You can see like the modules kind of floating in the middle there without a lot next to it. And this would make a very cute feather, maybe. Maybe I'll design something like that.
And available
Coming soon to DigiKey.
On DigiKey soon.
The eval board's available right now. The modules are currently unavailable. We've tried very hard to only focus INPI on stuff that either in stock or coming in soon. They're going to have these in stock in a couple months, but you can check it out, pre-order it, and you know, DigiKey can also probably help you get some samples if you only need like 5 pieces to get your design off the ground. They'll work with Murata, and I've had done this before. I've been like, hey, can you just like get me a couple pieces? And the sales rep is like, yeah, I'll get you a few, just so you can get your design going, and then you can book a reel through DigiKey. For the price, you know, you basically get like 2, you know, $7 chips merged together, packaged for under $10 a piece. It's a great deal. You get a very powerful chip and a really good radio, LoRaWAN compatibility and licensing already paid for. All you need is antenna, a couple passives, and like, it's tiny. It'll fit into like a little Tic Tac box or something.
Okay, and we're going to play a little video, and then right after that, we're going to jump right into new products.
There are times when we want to remind ourselves what we are capable of. When we defy the status quo, we keep innovating and push limits. This is Yumori, a multi-stack LP-WAN module equipped with Murata products and designed by Sentinum. Using Yumori's platform, we are going to show what LP-WAN is capable of, even under the most extreme conditions. But how? We are taking Yumori to near space. Launch is imminent. Inside the payload, Yumori uses a wide range of sensors to capture the environmental conditions. Utilizing cutting-edge long-range communication and localization technology, Yumori transmits all the data it has collected back to Earth. The signal is captured by our gateway and hundreds of other gateways around the world. The interface visualizes altitude, transmission range, location, and several other data in real time. After reaching an altitude of 40.2 kilometers, a parachute is activated and brings Yumori back down to Earth. Mission successful. On its 300-kilometer journey under extreme conditions, Yumori gathered and communicated various data and proved the capabilities of LP-WAN technology. One thing we can say is, with Yumori, the possibilities are endless.
On NPI.
Okay, before we do new products, don't forget the code is expressive, 10% off in Adafruit store. Let's kick it.
Kick it. New, 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 new. New, 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 new.
Okay, first up.
Got a little shortening adapter. We have stocked these in a couple different colors and designs for a while for use with like the Raspberry Pi version 1, which used a large SD card size. This is basically like, this is actually designed for MacBooks, to be honest. It's a half size, yeah, I can go there. It's a half size SD card holder that has a little slot in the side for a micro SD. So this is different than most of the adapters that come with your like SD card, or micro SD, where it goes through the end and they're kind of long. This is shorter. It's designed for MacBooks, but there's still a lot of like, sometimes we'll see, like 3D printers or like other, maker devices that have a big chunky SD card sticking out the side, and maybe you want it to be a little bit more flush. This one's basically half the width, so that's what you would use this for.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, we've got the RCWL 1601 sonar sensor, and if you look in the front of this, it says like Trig Echo Ground, which is like, oh, no, go back. I'll tap you instead, yeah. This one, it says VCC Trig Echo Ground, and that's what like the standard like HC04 interface is for ultrasonics. And then you'll see like above that it says like RX and TX, so you can use it for UART, and there's also SCL, SDA. And for a while I was like, oh man, like I wonder, like can it actually be used for I2C? And it turns out that on the back there's a little jumper, and yes, if you move the resistor from UART to I2C or IIC, like this one, the onboard chip will go into I2C mode. Now I'll say one thing about it. It's not like super happy I2C. It absolutely does work. It doesn't like to share the I2C bus with other devices, or at least when I put an OLED on the same bus, it kind of locked up the bus. But as long as I kept it as the only item on the I2C bus, it definitely for sure worked just fine. And you might be wondering, like, well, what's the point of doing it if it's I2C and you can't like really share it with other devices? Well, there's a lot of microcomputers and microcontrollers that may not have fast enough GPIO to do the HC04 type trigger. There might be ones that don't have hardware UART. And maybe it's okay that you only have one device on the I2C bus. I still think this is quite useful. And also there's a lot of microcontrollers that have multiple I2C buses. So if we go to the overhead, let me just autofocus this real fast. So here I've got a, and then I'm going to lock the focus. This is a QT Py RP2040. So this and a lot of our other QT Pys have enough pins that they can have two I2C ports. So the sonar sensor here is connected to power and ground, and then the SDA, SCL, I2C1 port. And then the OLED here is connected to the STEMMA QT, which is the second I2C port. And so you can see here I've got a little demo going on where as I move my, hold on, I gotta like move my hand up and down, it's detecting the distance. And this demo works great. So, it definitely works with I2C. It's a very simple interface. You can't change the address. It's a fixed address, but again, there's going to be those weirdo cases where you're like, look, I really just want a low-cost sonar sensor, and I don't have anything else on the I2C bus that could possibly confuse it. It's very inexpensive. It's only a couple bucks to add a sonar sensor, and it works with the classic I2C.
All right, next up.
Okay, next up, we've updated the QT Py ESP32 Pico, which uses the ESP32 Pico chip. It's got 8 megabytes of flash and 2 megabytes of PS RAM. It's adorable. It's an ESP32. So if you stop here and you look, something's different. That's right. The USB to serial chip has changed. It was the CP2102N, but wouldn't you know it, there's a chip shortage. We can't get a lot of those chips, and so we've swapped it for the CH9102F. So this is a revision, but basically as long as you install the driver for the CH9102F, you're good to go. It works exactly the same. It's a drop-in replacement. We tested it out with Linux, with a Mac, using the latest Mac OS and M1, and with Windows, and it updates super fast, and it's super great.
All right, and the star of the show tonight, besides you, Lady Ada, our team, our community, our customers, and everyone who keeps this thing going is...
The new updated Feather ESP32 S3. Now you might be thinking, hey, wait, this sounds so familiar. Didn't you put this in the store like a month ago? Yes, we did have a Feather ESP32S3 in the store. The one that we put in a few weeks ago was the one with 8 megabytes of flash and 0 megabytes of PS RAM. And this one, if you stop and look at the back here, this one has 4 megabytes of flash and 2 megabytes of PS RAM. So basically, half as much flash, but a ton more SRAM or PS RAM that you can access. So this Feather, basically this version of the memory configuration wasn't available until now. We recently just got this shipment in of modules, and so we could make this version of the Feather. This Feather is going to be a lot better for use with CircuitPython, which uses RAM to store code in, or any Arduino project or ESP-IDF project where you want a really big buffer of memory. Let's say you're downloading an MP3 from the internet or an image, and or you're doing camera stuff, and you want to buffer an entire frame in memory. It does have 512K of SRAM, but that SRAM goes very fast when you're using SSL and Wi-Fi. So that PSRAM can be really good. You want to do emulation, you want to do I2S audio buffering, you want to, have, again, camera stuff, you want to do, double buffered graphics using the S3 TFT driver. The PSRAM version is where it's at. If you don't care too much about whether you have PSRAM or not, then the 8 megabyte flash could give you more storage space, more flash space. So we have both available for the Feather. Otherwise, it's basically the same board as the Feather ESP32S3. You've got the module, you've got a boot button and a reset button. You got a STEMMA QT port for connecting up our sensors, USB-C for data and power programming, native USB. The ESP32S3 is a dual-core, 240 megahertz 10-silica processor. It's got Wi-Fi, it's got BLE, it's very fast. Battery charging built in, battery monitoring built in, Feather layout, just compatible with all the Feathers you know and love. It's a great little Feather. And now it just has PSRAM. So, especially for people who want to use CircuitPython, I recommend this one because CircuitPython, you can load so much code into the PSRAM that you have available on this board.
And that is new products.
Boom.
This week.
New.
Okay, and don't forget, code is expressive, 10% off in the store. We are going to do questions, and we're going to bounce because we got a bunch of stuff going on tonight, but we still left room for questions. So go to adafruit.it/discord and answer.
We still did a
and
full
ask
hour of
questions together.
news
Yeah.
and updates and
So
videos.
here we
There's no
go.
commercial breaks either.
No. So I'll preload one of these. There's two
Yeah,
so
let's
far.
ask some
So the
questions.
first one was it was related to the Raspberry Pi shortage, and they didn't see the beginning part of the show, so I don't mind saying this part again. They wanted to know if they've already got one from Adafruit, when can they order one again? And the answer is not yet, because there's still a lot of folks who want to get them, and we want to make sure that everyone has a chance. So please hold off and don't try to do it. We have some pretty good detection for that. And also, please don't try to get around it. But we want as many people to get a Raspberry Pi who don't have them. That's the priority right now. And you have to make some choices, and you're not going to make everyone happy, but this is the best thing that we can do at this time.
That's right.
Okay. The other question was, would we ever consider just hiring everyone from MicroPython and just making their hardware and doing stuff? Always open to ideas like that. Damien and the team there, they do consulting. They have their own lives and businesses that are in another country. We want to continue to support them. I think that they'll probably get some chips at some point for hardware. I think we're the biggest reseller of their hardware. But
Yeah, I mean, by the way, the chip shortage affects everyone. I
Yeah.
can't get the chips that they need either.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would just send them some chips. That's not the issue.
We did a chip shortage video just for them. But I look at it this way: when you do open source and you're in a community, there's all sorts of different configurations that we might end up working together, and that's why I think it's really important when folks, even if you're working on, so MicroPython and CircuitPython, there's similarities because they're based on the same code. And there's also differences because we have a different set of customers. We wanted to support a lot of different boards, but we all get along and we all do stuff together. And I think that's really important because you never know. Maybe they'll hire us one day. Maybe we'll hire them. All sorts of stuff. And I think that's the way that you should approach things is whoever you work with online, when you're doing pull requests with or you're in chat rooms with, maybe this is someone you're going to work with one day. A lot of the folks that we've hired at Adafruit came from being on the show and tell or come from the community. And I think that's why it's really important we all think about our interactions and more, because this is the type of things that we can imagine. It'd be like, that'd be pretty cool. Maybe we'll have a Adafruit New Zealand or Adafruit Australia or Adafruit somewhere. And it could be another group of people. Who knows? Next, PCB design question. Most of Adafruit's PCBs have 4 holes, 1 in each corner. 2 of those holes are plated and 2 aren't. What's the reason they aren't all plated or non-plated?
Plated holes are a little stronger, but they do add copper in the area. So usually around antennas, I try not to use plated holes. If there isn't a ground plane there, sometimes, I don't have enough space. So, usually there's a design decision, but it does vary from board to board.
Okay. I'll summarize the general question about like why is there some part shortages. So here's some guesses.
That's a good
because
question. We don't.
yeah, no one really knows exactly. It might be, it probably is lots of different things. But Shanghai, as of yesterday, is now off lockdown. So there was
That's great.
Yeah. So 25 million people, but there's still like 1 million people still in different stages of lockdown. So when you have a population that big and it's in a manufacturing center of the world or parts of it, or even the logistics or who knows, all the different things that flow in and out of a specific region, it does slow things up. And that's part of the reason. Other thing is like we've had a pandemic for a couple of years and it's just been really hard to get stuff done. Lots of planning changed, lots of things changed. And I just don't think we're used to having to plan ahead when there's so much uncertainty.
I think the purchasing styles have changed. The way companies order stuff has changed. I mean, the industry has shifted.
Yep.
Again, there are parts being made. There's a lot of the parts that we've ordered exist. It's just who are they being allocated to? Another thing is, we used to order 1 quarter's worth at a time, and then every chip fab company basically, or chip company came to us and said, look, you cannot order 3 months at a time. You have to order a year or 2 at a time, and then we'll schedule it out for you. We need to know way ahead of time when you need stuff and how much. And so that's changed, purchasing for a lot of people. You're going from ordering with 6 to 8 week lead time at the, or usually the stuff is in stock, to 50 to 80 week lead time. It just makes things more unstable and a lot more inventory. It's less liquid.
Yeah, and in the chat they said a lot of the industry was based on just-in-time zero inventory, and that caught a lot of folks by surprise when there wasn't the ability just to get something overnighted when you need it. A lot of companies, basically like DigiKey was their offsite storage. They're just like, oh, I'll just buy the stuff when I need it.
Get the parts when you need them. You're doing a manufacturing run, order it the week beforehand.
That's probably going away and is gone for quite some time. There's probably no going back to back in the day when you would just order all the stuff you need and it would all show up. You probably have to do a lot more planning. So I was talking in a couple of meetings at Adafruit, and it's one of the times where I wish I could, well, I don't wish I could stop everything and write about it because I like doing this, but I also do know that I think there'd be an interesting thing that we could write about during this experience, but it's hard to write about the thing and do the thing. But back in the day when we would have journalists talk to us, they would note something that we would say, or they would make the same observation. Oh, Lamore designs for engineering. She sits right over there, and then the means of production, the pick and place machines and everything is 20 feet away. So she designs for manufacturing. We're doing something a little different now. We're designing for availability and we're designing for purchasing. So we have a predictive inventory system and predictive purchasing, and we have humans who do it as well, and we all work together with the machines, machine friend, robot friend, not robot enemy. And it's a partnership of being smart about the information, and then Lamore will design things that we think we can actually get. So it's a very different way to engineer, and Lamore used to do all the purchasing as well. So it's a very unique situation we're in. Again, don't look at it as a crisis, maybe an opportunity. But we're getting more resilient in our designs too. So when things go away, we can quickly make sure we can get a substitution as well. So I think for the next 20, 30 years, it's going to help us a lot. But
yeah.
Anyways, and I think that is, yep.
Okay, thanks everybody.
That's it. Thank you, everyone. Got us out. It's 9 o'clock on the dot. This has been an Adafruit production. Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
everybody.
Zay, behind the scenes here at Adafruit. Thank you, all of our customers, our community, everyone who's making this thing go. Don't forget the code is expressive, and you get a bunch of free stuff, but you got to make sure for stuff that's limit 1, make sure your account is 2 stepped off and more. We'll see everybody next week. Here is your moment of Zener.
Bye.